thank you for the opportunity, UXDX. And I've been at Meta for over 4 years. And along the way, I have learned how to be data informed and not data blind. And in this session, I'll be sharing some of the insights, some of the learnings through real life case studies at Meta. Quickly about me, what I do at Meta. I build products supporting content creators and businesses. Creators use our tools to produce great content, which in turn helps them make a living on Meta platforms. Businesses use our tools to connect with creators for influencer marketing, doing brand partnerships, and running successful campaigns and generating more leads from Meta platforms. So we are really helping millions of creators and businesses thrive and make a living on our Meta platforms. Now, just to put things in perspective, before we really go deeper into how to be data informed, let's understand why data is so important at Meta. So, three main reasons. Number one, with massive scale comes massive responsibility. We have over 8 billion monthly active users worldwide. We are the biggest social fabric connecting the world, which means that across the world, billions of people rely on our platforms for a variety of different use cases. There are users who come to our platforms to connect with friends and family. There are users who come to our platform to run their business. Now, however, at this scale, even minor changes can have far-reaching consequences. Now, to mitigate this risk, we use data to rigorously evaluate the impact of potential changes before rolling them out more broadly. By doing so, we can protect the user experience and prevent unintended changes from affecting our global community. Number two, building for a diverse user base presents both an opportunity and a challenge. Just for reference, our user base across the world is spread across 190 countries worldwide. Now, this user base is very diverse, comprising people from different demographics who utilize our platforms for different purposes. And then again, with this diversity, we have both an opportunity and a challenge as we strive to create products that are relevant and effective, meeting the unique needs of each segment. Now, again, here, data helps us make the right decisions and helping us test, learn, and iterate in a methodical fashion where we understand the distinct needs of our users who are spread across the world. And then third, our product ecosystem is very complex and interconnected. Across our family of apps, we have Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Threads, which means that a lot of these features interact with each other, and making change on one feature can have consequences on another and potentially cannibalize the usage. So again, here it becomes very important that we use data to mitigate this risk and isolate and evaluate specific changes within our ecosystem, ensuring that improvements in one area do not come at the expense of the other. So now that we understand importance of data at Meta, A/B testing, which you all might have heard of, is a very, very important tool for us here at Meta to make data-informed decisions. Just as a kind of quiz, how many A/B tests do you think Meta runs in a given year on average? You might guess hundreds, maybe 1,000 or thousands. It's actually 200,000 tests on average per year. At any given time, we are running approximately 20,000 to 30,000 tests on our Meta platforms. And you might have noticed that sometimes you see a feature on Facebook that your friends don't, or maybe your friend is seeing a feature that you are not seeing. It just means that you are in a test group and we are testing an exciting feature before we roll out broadly to all the users. So with that context in place, now let's talk about the tactics on how to be data informed and not data blind. And I'm going to illustrate this through the story of Jack and Jill. I think we all know Jack and Jill from our from our early days as nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill went up the hill. But imagine that Jack and Jill became PMs at Meta, and let's see how they learned to be data informed at Meta through real life case studies. So the first case I have here is the case of gamification. Now, this is where our goal was to drive Reels production. We wanted to grow the production of Reels content on our platforms. Now, to brainstorm ideas to address this goal, we conducted user research and understood what are the motivations of creators, what are their pain points. And what we learned was that creators want to feel recognized and they want to be incentivized for their content creation efforts. So the idea that the team came up with is, what if we gamify content production? We have seen gamification with Duolingo, we have seen gamification in actual gaming platforms. But what if we bring the same concept to content production, where we start rewarding creators with badges as they hit milestones in their content creation journey? Our hypothesis was that when creators have fun producing content, they will actually produce more content on Meta. So, with this hypothesis, we went into A B testing. And the A B tests revealed that Reels production increased. We did see a goal metric move in the A B test, which was great. Also, Reels created were getting good engagement from users, which means that users were watching those Reels, they were enjoying those Reels, they were liking it, there were comments happening, which is again a good thing. So Jack said, great, metric move, let's ship. But then Jill said, hey, let's take a step back. Let's do a deeper dive to understand why. So, what did Jill do? Jill gathered qualitative feedback from users on the feature. She also scanned the social media to see what creators were talking in general about the feature. These were the findings that Jill had. Number one, creators are feeling burnout and constant pressure of producing. Creators have lives, life happens, but imagine if you have a constant pressure of producing content every single day, that's going to burn you out and introduce that stress and anxiety. While this was exciting in the short term and moved metrics, what this meant was that in long term, it will negatively impact creators' perception of Meta and will ultimately churn the creators from the platform, which is what we did not want. So, what did Jill do with the findings? So, she adjusted the product so that it becomes more of an enjoyable experience than a stress based, milestone based experience. So, she removed penalties for the streaks. So, which means that if you miss a streak, you don't get penalized, you start from where you left. She also replaced leaderboards with tiered progress and personal goals. What this meant was that we empowered the creators to set their goals and based on that, set their journey and personalized milestones. So each creator could choose what their journey would look like. And lastly, introduce sentiment tracking and qualitative feedback as ongoing parameters as success metrics to measure the product. The result was that creator sentiment improved and they felt more in control and more aligned with their values, ensuring long term value for the platform and creators. Great. The second case was the case of automation. Our goal was to activate non reel creators to reels. Now, this is again going back to time when TikTok was emerging as a strong competitor. And at Facebook, a lot of our creators were still producing long form videos and photo posts. Now, we wanted to understand, based on like user research, what the biggest pain point of these novice creators. And what UX uncovered was that these creators lacked expertise and they also complained about how time intensive it is to create reels. Imagine you asking a creator who is producing feed for a post and suddenly asking them to create reels. It is time intensive and it is intimidating to switch to a new content format. So the idea that our team came up with was we will onboard these new novice creators to reels by automatically repurposing their existing content to reels. For example, if they just published a feed for a post, we can automatically convert that to a reel and show them the power of short form videos. And then with this, our hypothesis was by reducing friction and producing reels, we can actually activate non-reel creators to reels, and eventually they will pick the habit, get a feel of it, and start producing more reels organically. So with this hypothesis, we went into A/B test, and the A/B test revealed we actually saw an increase in reels production from these non-reel creators, which again was great. And Jack was excited. Metric move, let's ship. But then Jill again took a step back and said, let's do a deeper dive to understand why. So, what did Jill do here again? So, Jill conducted manual data analysis to understand what kind of users were adopting the product. Jill manually reviewed quality of reels produced. She wanted to understand that great that creators are producing reels, but what is the quality of these reels? Is this engaging content that our consumers would enjoy on Facebook platform? Jill also gathered qualitative feedback from the users. And her findings were, one, we were mainly activating early stage creators who have less than 1,000 followers. Second, the quality of reels produced was low for two main reasons. One, we were activating low quality content creators who generally produce spammy, low quality content. So if you looked at the historical content production, they were producing content with minimal effort, not investing too much of time and creativity into producing engaging content. And then we were also converting content that wouldn't make good reels to begin with. So imagine somebody posted a picture of tomatoes in their farm and we convert that into a reel. That wouldn't make a good reel. And then third, also from the qualitative feedback, users were complaining about how spammy the experience felt when they did not want to convert their photo post to reel but felt compelled to do so. So, what did Jill do with these findings? One, she gated the feature to bigger creators who had more than 10,000 followers. This ensured that the feature is available only to the quality creators. Second, she gated the feature to feed photo posts with 5 plus photos. The hypothesis again here was that the more the number of pictures, the better the reel would be. A feed for a post with less than 3 pictures, but for example, wouldn't make a good reel. And then third, she implemented a cool down strategy to address spamminess. So if users did not engage with the upsell, don't show that upsell to them for 30 days. This ensures that we preserve the user experience and don't come out as spammy. The result was that we took a hit on the short term impact. Obviously, with all the gating of features, the impact came down, but this ensured a healthy content ecosystem and protected the user experience in the long term. Okay, the third case, the case of optimization. Now, this is where the goal was to help creators get more reach for their content, reach as in more number of views. The idea that we came up with based on UXR is that most of the users they complain about not being able to reach the audiences in their niche interest area. So, for example, if I'm a creator in the fitness category, how do I grow my reach with audiences in the fitness segment? And then we identified playlists as an idea, which will help creators package their content into themes. And then we can use playlists to improve the discovery with interest based audiences. This is a very successful feature on YouTube, and it felt like a table stick experience we should bring to Facebook. So then, with this hypothesis, we went into A B testing. And what did A B test reveal? So, across the board, we saw not static, non-static results. Number of views was not static. Also, A/B test was inconclusive. Now Jack was disappointed and said, "Hey, metric did not move. Let's not ship." But then Jill said, "Hey, let's do a deeper dive to understand why." And what did Jill do here? She conducted offline analysis to look at the product funnel and did a cohort analysis to understand what is the adoption rate of playlists and what kind of users were adopting the product. And for the users who were adopting the product, are they getting more views on their content? And then she also gathered qualitative feedback from users to supplement her understanding. Her findings were that adoption looks healthy. Creators are adopting the product, which means that they are finding value in the product. And the creators who did adopt the product, they did get more views on their content, which means our hypothesis that playlists could be a tool to improve discovery with interest-based audiences was validated. The metric did not move in A/B test because the adoption needs to scale to a certain level to be able to move and see a movement in A/B test. And then qualitative feedback revealed that creators are actually raving about the feature and they actually consider this as a table stake feature to be in parity with YouTube. So with these findings, Jill decided to actually ship the MVP. Even though the A/B test was inconclusive, she still decided to ship the MVP with a back test to measure for long-term impact and monitor for regressions, if any. She also brought the whole team together to brainstorm features to unlock more user value and hence scale adoption of playlists to actually start seeing impact accrue over the long term. So, what is the moral of the story from here? Well, the moral of the story is that be a Jill, not a Jack. Or, in other words, be data informed, not data blind. And I will leave you with three main tactics or thoughts as you bring some of these lessons and learnings into your product experience. One, always start with a hypothesis before testing. Start with a strong hypothesis on what you expect to happen, what user behavior you intend to change with this feature, else you might mistake noise for impact. Second, balance the what with why. Matrix tell you what happened, but qualitative signals tell you why and bring that whole story, whole picture together. And third, always as a product manager, trust your intuition. Not every problem has a data backed answer. For example, for playlists, the A B test was inconclusive. But then, when ambiguity persists, when data is not available, use your product intuition to make the right product decisions for your users. With that, I would take questions. And I apologize for the hiccup earlier. Sometimes bad throat and illness just it takes a while to settle down.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, Swati, for sharing. And there were three great case studies. So I hope some people out there have some interesting questions. Thierry sent in a question for the last talk. So apologies we didn't get to that. But I'm going to jump in with a question, because one of the big things that I can see from my experience is there would have been a lot of arguments pushing back in both of your first two examples. Engagement went up and like interaction went up. So did you have conversations, and were there some people saying, oh, I think you're overblowing the risk of burnout, or I think you're overblowing the risk of low quality, and that we should keep going with this because adoption is increasing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rory. And I think that's a reality of building products, that as product manager, we're just one data point, and there are so many XFNs we have to who were behind in building this product. Like, they were designers, they're engineers, they are data scientists. And as a product manager, I think it's very important to rally the entire team behind the decisions that you're making, and making sure that every member in the team is aligned with what we are moving forward with. I think some of the strategies that I use here is, again, have a very methodical approach to what we are proposing. Like, if you have a clear hypothesis, and then very systematically you bring in those user research quotes, for example, that adds evidence that why you think that users are burning out. So when you start putting qualitative numbers and evidence behind what you're proposing, it suddenly builds a lot of credibility amongst all the XFNs. So I think, yeah, making sure that you bring evidence along. And also, like, data is great, but also like rolling up your sleeves and getting into the weeds yourself. Like for example, in that, we actually dog fooded the reels ourselves. So I was actually looking at the reels produced and looking at the creator profiles and to see what historically they have been producing. So I think when you get all this evidence, and also like articulate that how this is actually for the good of the long term, right? Like, how this aligns the long term vision. Because the way XFS come together is like, we all want the good for the product, even though short term impact might be compromised, but we all agree that yes, we do want the product to be succeed in long term. We want our users to continue using the product on long term. So that's when everybody comes on board. And we always, and I think just saying it's not a one gated door, you can always come back to the decision. Well, if we think that gating this feature did not help, or then we can always unlock the gate, right? We can always undo the decision. It's not, like, for example, for the playlist, we rolled it out the back test. So if my hypothesis that, yeah, playlist is an impactful feature was wrong, we could always unship it. So at Meta, we are not hesitant to unship the product if we have to.
Okay, that's great. It's kind of the two-door decision making, that there's door one irreversible, but most decisions are door two reversible decisions.
Yeah.
How do you balance as well? In your third example, you were talking about the A/B test was inconclusive, so you decided to do a bit more qualitative research on it. How do you balance saying, okay, we're going to continue investing and doing more research, versus, you know what, that was actually a bad idea, and knowing when to cut your losses versus keeping kind of doubling down, I guess?
Yeah, I think, again, this depends on the product, and how much investment you've already made, and also how much evidence you had to support your hypothesis. So, for example, for playlists, we had strong evidence from the industry that YouTube has used playlists for forever. It is a successful feature. Product intuition, even as a consumer, I think playlists are amazing, right? And then, of course, our user research also confirmed that creators do want this feature. So we had strong evidence going in that this feature should work. So, right, that's one. That's why we were hesitant to just rely on data and say, hey, let's not ship it, because strong evidence was there from the get-go. And second is also like, MVP is MVP. It's just like the little investment you make to validate your early hypothesis. So I am typically hesitant to cut down the product at MVP stage itself. because too early to unlock the full potential of the product and grow the adoption of the product. So if this product is still early stage, I would typically like do a little bit more investment, especially with the bigger segments that we want to target for the product before we decide to drop the tall and move on.
Great. So it's very contextual, I guess. It's depending on where you think that feature is. So if you didn't have as much evidence going in, do you think you'd be quicker to drop it?
Yeah. Again, it depends on the like. There's so many variables, Rory. Like for example, sometimes company priorities, right? Like there was a time, like for the last 4 or 5 years, when Reels was a company. It's still a company priority, right? Short form videos were taking over. Teens, young adults, everybody wanted short form videos and Reels, right? So at that point, across the board, every team would be very hesitant to drop the investment in Reels, even if the A/B tests were inconclusive, right? But let's say if you're working on long form videos, which was not a company priority at that point. So at that point, you might cut down your investments and stop further investment sooner than later, right? So it also depends on where you are in the industry overall and where is that macro trends emerging.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so just one other thing, it's related to Thierry's question for the previous talk, but do you have tools that you use? Because 200,000 A/B tests, that's got to be difficult to manage because I'm assuming lots of them are parallel. So you're going to potentially be influencing your tests with other tests.
Yeah. So typically at Meta, when we start the half, each team is allocated like their testing environment. Like these are the users you would run tests on, and that kind of somehow helps eliminate that contamination, the cross contamination. And then throughout the half, when the team is running tests, they run tests on their own audiences. That way, if we are seeing an impact from the feature, we can be assured that this is coming from the change we made versus another feature that our sister team launched. So that helps. But again, there could be external factors that could influence what you're seeing in your test. For example, if you know, like right now a lot of stuff is happening with immigration, and you could see that maybe that is starting to, you can start seeing a lot of content consumption around Trump or politics. It's not that we started bringing more content about it, but because there are macro trends outside our product that are influencing the content consumption patterns on our platform. So yeah, one, we try to isolate, we try to prevent the contamination by allocating the audience, test audience upfront. And second, for the tools that you mentioned, we use Deltoid at Meta. It's again like an A/B testing tool that we use. And everybody in the team, like engineers, data scientists, and product managers, together they look at deltoids, and we bring the test to formal experiment reviews. We look at our success metrics. We look at the guardrails, which is so important to make sure that, okay, our metric moved, but did we regress any of our guardrails? So this is, the guardrail is a set of company metrics which cut across all the products. Because at a company level, we care about our user experience, which cuts across stories, reels, groups, marketplace, right? So while we might be optimizing our local metric in the A/B test, we set our guardrails tight around the top line company matrix that we don't want to regress.
Brilliant. And do you have any kind of minimum that you would consider a valid test, like your audience size? But I guess if you've got 8 billion monthly active users, you can probably come up with pretty large segment sizes.
Yeah. We typically don't have that challenge of, like, yeah, you're right. Like for A/B test to be statistically significant, you need to have a decent audience size. Luckily at Meta, at our scale, we don't have that problem. But we did encounter some of that with playlists because there are some millions of creators we have, which we opened up playlist to. But again, adoption takes time to uptick. And we were trying to measure a downstream metric. Like one, first users have to adopt playlists. And when they adopt playlists, their content gets discovered by the audiences who are interested in a particular subject. And that should improve their view. So we are trying to measure like a second order effect. So that's where I think adoption becomes a challenge, like where you have to scale it to a certain level before you can start seeing that downstream effect. But otherwise, mostly we are okay. Like typically, like anything with thousands of users, we should be able to see good statistic results.
Brilliant. Well, that actually brings us pretty much to time. So thank you, Swati, for sharing, and thank you for overcoming your illness and sharing your insights with everybody.
Yeah, I was worried that I might be able to kind of recover, because once it hits, it's just so hard to come back. But I'm glad it it cooperated. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Rory. It was great presenting here.